After spending $25,000 on sleep coaches, courses, annoying sleep tests in hospitals where I was hooked up to wires all night, sleep gadgets like the Oura Ring and 8 Sleep Pod, I figured out that there were really only three big things you need to do to get amazing sleep. Now, trust me when I say bad sleep will literally affect every aspect of your life: relationships, finances, how good you feel, how big of an impact you'll make in the world, how much of yourself you can give to others, literally everything. There's nothing worse than waking up after a bad sleep, feeling unrefreshed, unmotivated, and knowing that you'll be tired all day, and then planning your day around when you can take a nap. Now, even worse, you tend to make much worse decisions and be way less productive when you are tired. So that's why I spent $25,000 over the past 5 years to figure this out. Because I know that my sleep will literally determine the type of man I will become and the legacy that I'll leave here on earth. That's not an exaggeration because your motivation levels have a lot to do with your sleep. And if you're constantly tired, then there's no way you'll be able to live up to your potential. So let's jump right into it. There are three major things you need to do to get your sleep right. The first and by far the most important one is having a consistent sleep and wake up time. More specifically, having a consistent wake up time, because if you wake up at the same time, then chances are you're going to be tired at the same time. Now, why is this so important and why is it the MVP of sleep hacks? It's because your wake up time will determine your circadian rhythm, which is another word for your body clock. Okay, so this will set your body clock, and if you wake up at the same time every single day, you will have that consistency and your body will know exactly what's going on and when it should wake up, when it should be tired, when it should be energized, all of those things. So you can imagine if you're waking up at different times, one day you're waking up at 8, the next day you're waking up at 10 a.m., the next day you're waking up at noon, your body doesn't know what's going on and therefore it's going to run less efficiently. It's going to not know when to be tired, when to be awake, and all that kind of stuff. Now, before we continue with the other two major things that you need to sleep better, I want to give you some background on my sleep story. In my 20s, I had the worst sleep schedule. During the week, I worked a 9 to 5 job, so I'd sleep and wake up at, normal hours. But then on weekends, I went nuts and I bartended on the side. So every Friday, Saturday, I'd be up until 4 a.m. and then sleep in until noon the next day. So my internal clock had no clue what was happening. And this pattern continued for over 10 years. So you can imagine the havoc it caused on my sleep. Basically, I've struggled with my sleep for over 15 years now. Now, try to guess my age here. And there were years where I never woke up refreshed, and weirder still, I just thought it was normal, but it isn't. For the past 5 years, I really started to take sleep seriously because it was affecting every aspect of my life. And that's where I spent all this time and money to research it. Now, I'm not going to lie and say I have the best sleeps in the world because I don't, but I've been able to figure out how to improve it dramatically. My average sleep score, according to my Oura Ring, was about 65 when I first started. And now I know exactly what to do to consistently get scores in the 80 range. And I'm sure I could get it up to the 90s if I really followed all the tips I'm about to share with you consistently. But I'm not a robot, so I don't always follow them. Now, before we jump in, I have to say I had a lot of emotional resistance to devoting myself to getting better sleep because I knew that it meant that I had to evolve and change from the old version of myself. The guy that used to party every single weekend, stay out late drinking, and all that. I knew I had to grow up and give up that old unhealthy lifestyle, and I simply wasn't ready to let it go for a while. Until I realized how sleep affected every aspect of my life and was stopping me from reaching my goals of retiring my parents, making a big impact in this world, and helping people. I'd be really curious to hear what stage of your journey you're in, so leave me a comment below letting me know what led you to this video and why you want to improve your sleep now. Now, the next major pillar of getting great sleep is sleeping before midnight. The quality of sleep you get before midnight is much higher than the quality you get after, so those hours are worth more. Now, the amount varies per person, of course, but getting about 8 hours of sleep is recommended. That's a general guideline and one I found works very well for me. Another cool thing I've learned from my Oura Ring is that I sleep for about 2 hours less than the time I think I am. For example, if I'm in bed and passed out by midnight and sleep until 8 a.m., my sleep is fragmented such that I would have only slept for 6 hours actually due to the efficiency of my sleep. So if you think you slept for 8 hours, that may not necessarily be the case, as everyone's sleep efficiency differs. For me, I need to be asleep for 10 hours to actually get my 8 hours of sleep, which is a long time and hard for me to do consistently, to be honest. but I try to do it as much as I can. And the third major hack to getting great sleep is getting 8 hours of sleep. Now, this amount varies per person, of course, but that's the general guideline and one I found works very well for me. When I get less than 8 hours, I'm noticeably more tired. All right, so those are the big three sleep tips that I found over the past 5 years and of having spent $25,000 so that you don't have to. So let's recap them real quick. So the first one is having a consistent wake up and sleep time, most notably your wake up time. So try to have that consistently throughout the week, especially on weekends as well. Try to keep that roughly within a 1 hour range throughout the entire week. So if you wake up at 7 a.m. during the week, then, it's okay to sleep in until roughly 8 a.m. on weekends if you'd like. And I would note that after a while of waking up consistently at this same time, your body will naturally want to wake up at this time, regardless of whether it's the weekend or the week. The second major sleep tip that I can give you is to sleep before midnight. And this is because the sleep that you get before midnight is higher quality than the sleep that you get after midnight. So try to get as much of that in as you can. Now, the third and final major tip that I can give you is to get 8 hours of sleep. Okay, now again, this amount will vary depending on the person, your age, your exercise level, different factors. But for me, I know that 8 hours is my ideal time, so you'll have to play around with that. And again, keep in mind sleep efficiency plays a factor here. So if you are sleeping for 8 hours, that does not necessarily mean that you're getting 8 hours of sleep. All right, so those are the big three. If you could only follow 3 tips, follow those. So that will take you from a low baseline up to a solid baseline of around 80 sleep score on Aura. Okay. Now, if you want to get from that 80 to that 90 plus level, there's a bunch of smaller tips that I'm about to give you here. Now, like I said before, I don't follow every single one of these tips. It's hard for any single human to do that, but take the ones that you think you can do, plug them into your routine, and see what happens for you. Now, the first smaller tip that I can give you is to stop eating as early as you can before bedtime, ideally 3 hours before. Now, I've tested this with a blood sugar monitor, and you get blood sugar spikes after you eat, which is then followed by a crash, and this could disrupt your sleep. Not to mention, digestion takes energy from your body and makes it harder for it to rest properly. So if you're in the habit of having a snack before bed like I used to be, try to have just a little bit and make it more protein filled than carb filled, okay? Now, the second smaller sleep hack that I can give you is to optimize your room. So you want a dark room with a temperature roughly 19 or 20 degrees Celsius. This will make sure that you're in the optimal sleeping environment because, as you can imagine, when we were cavemen, this was kind of how we slept. We slept under the dark, under the moon. It was a little bit cooler outside. So you want to keep that dark room and the temperature roughly 19 to 20 degrees Celsius. Next tip that I can give you is trying to avoid alcohol and drugs, of course. Now, they may help you fall asleep faster, but the quality of sleep will suffer because they actually elevate your heart rate. Now, I personally like to drink socially, so here are some tips I follow when I want to drink. First of all, day drinking is awesome. So if you can try to stick to that, that will greatly help your sleep. If you do have to drink at night, I would have a specific cutoff time, okay? So what I do is I front load my drinking, especially if I'm drinking at night. So I'll have, a few drinks early in the night, and then I try to taper off slowly so that, my drunkenness level decreases by the time that I actually fall asleep, and therefore my heart rate decreases as well so that my quality won't suffer too much. Okay. A few other tips here. Start with beer, then move to liquor so that you don't have to wake up to pee as much. Okay. Or just stick to liquor if you don't like beer anyways. So that'd be helpful. And then another thing that a lot of people don't think of is to try alternatives like hard ketones. Now, I've tried these and they give you a little bit of a buzz. Not nearly as much as alcohol, to be honest, but they're much better for you, so it's worth a shot. Now, the next tip that I can give you might sound obvious, but having a comfy mattress and pillow are very important, but it depends on which way you sleep, okay? So if you're a stomach sleeper, you want a firmer mattress with a thinner pillow. If you're a side sleeper, you want a soft to medium mattress with a taller pillow to help keep your spine in alignment when you're lying down. Now, finally, if you're a back sleeper, you want a medium or firm mattress, depending on your preference, with a smaller, thinner pillow. The next tip is to avoid caffeine, which I know is very hard for a lot of us, including myself. Some people are more sensitive to caffeine than others, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but the half life of caffeine is about 8 to 10 hours. So, what that means is that half of it is still left in your system after about 8 to 10 hours. And so it's not fully gone out of your system for 16 to 20 hours in total. So, my rule is that I cut it off by noon and I don't drink any on weekends so that my body doesn't get too used to it. Okay, that's the rule that I follow, and it's generally a recommended rule by a lot of sleep experts out there. I also tried a clean April last month for the first time in my life. So that means no caffeine and no alcohol. And I found it wasn't a huge difference, but it definitely helped my sleep because, being hungover doesn't help anyone. And not drinking caffeine helped me fall asleep a lot faster. So I think there's definitely something to it. My next tip has to do with the sun and your circadian rhythm. So the sun sets your internal clock, and you want to make sure to go outside and get direct sunlight early in the day to make sure your body knows that it's daytime. Because your body only knows when to be awake or asleep based on the sun. It's not like you, it can't read a watch or, can't read an iPhone to see what time it is. So the sun is what actually tells it what time it is. So the sun is actually what tells it when to be awake or asleep. Okay. Now this leads to my next point, which is no screens before bed. To be honest, I enjoy watching TV before bed because it helps me relax at night. So I don't follow this one at all. But it makes perfect sense that no screens before bed will help you sleep better because the blue light emitted from screens signal to your body that it is daytime. So it messes up with your circadian rhythm. Now, I everyone tells me this, I should probably stop doing it, but like I said, I'm not a robot. I'm not going to follow every single rule. I enjoy it, and yeah, I'm just going to keep doing it. To be honest. Now, the next one might sound obvious as well, but exercise. Okay. So I'm not going to get too deep into this, but getting daily exercise in general is good for you and will help you sleep better as well. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but try to just get movement, go for walks, go to the gym, yoga, whatever you enjoy. Okay. So, yeah, get out there and move basically. So getting out there and moving will help your sleep. And that's it. So that's a bunch of tips. And like I said, to be completely honest, I don't follow every single tip here because I'm not a robot and neither are you. I go through different phases where sometimes I'm really disciplined and then other times where I just do what I want. And, that works for me and I will stick to it. Now, I generally stick to the three major rules that I told you at the beginning of the video. Those are pretty much deal breakers for me. The other ones I will mix in here and there, and it depends on the season of life. In the summer, I will drink more typically. And so sometimes I will follow all of the rules. Sometimes I don't follow a lot of the smaller ones. And that's just how it is. I really believe in the 80-20 principle. So 80% of the time, I do what's right or what's healthy. And then 20% of the time, I do whatever I want. Okay. And that's kind of my life philosophy because I do believe in balance. You can't always be disciplined. You're eventually going to break. So I like to follow the 80-20 rule where I try to give myself a little bit of leeway there. Now, in order to make this stick, I find a morning routine to be helpful. I know a bedtime routine can also be helpful here, but I've never been able to find a bedtime routine that I've stuck to be honest. And so the morning routine is one that works best for me. And so I'll let you know what mine looks like. Here's the one that I've been doing lately, and I always play around with it, but it always has some sort of variation of these items here. So when I wake up, the first thing that I do is I do about a 10-minute meditation, and I have a yoga mat in my bedroom. So I just wake up, get down there because I want to, before I have distractions in my head and notifications from my phone and all that stuff, I want to kind of, receive inspiration, receive what I'm supposed to be receiving. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing I'll do is I'll do a little bit of prayer. Okay, now prayer could look different for different people depending on who or what you believe in, and I'm not going to get into that. But for me, praying is just speaking to God or the person that I believe in, and it's just having a conversation with God. Okay, so meditation is kind of like listening to God or your higher power. Prayer is speaking to him or them or her. After that, then I will do some gratitude. So I have an app called Gratitude. It's awesome. It makes it really easy just to gives you some prompts and gives you some stories on and helps you be grateful. So highly recommend doing that. Just takes 2 minutes a day, and honestly, it's a really nice app. No affiliation. Those three things take about 20 minutes or so. Then I go downstairs, I drink a glass of water, I have my vitamins, and I take creatine as a supplement. The next thing I do is a Tony Robbins priming exercise. If you want to check it out, just go on YouTube and search for Tony Robbins priming. There's a couple of versions, 10 to 15 minutes long, I think. A small caveat there. So, I'm not a huge fan of gurus like Tony Robbins. Now, I do particularly like Tony Robbins. He's very genuine and he's helped so many people. So, I love that and I can definitely appreciate that. But I always take the gurus with a grain of salt and just take the things that I enjoy and incorporate that into my routine. Okay. So the first part is just some movement, getting your body going. The second part is gratitude. And then the third part is visualization. So those three things together in a quick 10-minute package, really powerful at the start of your day. And there's some really cool music. It's moving and it really helps you feel things and feel emotions. Because I found in the past, I've done gratitude on my own, but I felt I was just kind of going through the motions and I wasn't really feeling it. And I find this exercise really helps me to feel that emotion, which I think is really the point of gratitude, to really feel it and not just, say it, which I think is really the point of it. Now, the last thing I'll do is I'll prepare my breakfast and I will have a chat with my parents. So, for my breakfast, I usually just have some sort of shake or eggs. And while I'm doing that, I'll give my parents a phone call. Because to be honest, I've been really bad in the past at communicating with them. I would call them once every 2 or 3 weeks, maybe. And I really wanted to improve that because I know how much they love hearing from me. And if I can just brighten their day up a little bit, that's the least I could do for them. And that is it. So I do this morning routine about 3 to 5 times a week. I don't do it every single day. And in the past, I would kind of beat myself up if I didn't do it in the morning. And now I give myself permission to skip a day if I, just don't feel like it or for whatever reason might pop up. Now, I know it's hard to create and stick to a routine, so I've created an awesome resource for you. It's linked in the comment section below, so click down there to get it. And it's really going to help you, first of all, pick a morning routine and then stick to it. So this is going to help your entire life, especially your sleep. So I highly recommend you check that out. And if you have any questions for me or if you have any suggestions for topics you want to see in the future, just leave it in the comments below. I'll be checking all of your comments and I will take your feedback very much to heart. So please let me know what you want to see. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you next time.